Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to our Weekend Weird. Today, as the polls show, we have elected to cover the Wunderwaffe. Or the Wunderwaffe. Yeah? Ja? Do you want to cover the Wunderwaffe? This is essentially what it comes down to is these are weapons created in the 1930s and early 1940s, or designed. I shouldn't say created. A lot of them were never created. They were just designed and blueprinted for the Third Reich to use to turn the tides of war. So in order to dig into that, we're going to start right here.
The Owl Mountains. No other place is surrounded by so many myths and legends. It is said that the Third Reich carried out a gigantic and top-secret construction project here during the all-out war in order to avert an impending defeat. The gold train with 300 tons of gold on board is also said to have disappeared without a trace on its journey near Waldenburg. Kilometers of tunnels, deep in the forest, and even deeper.
Lost gold, you say? This would have been good for last week's show. We had the treasures, the cursed treasures.
Underground. This is where the National Socialists are said to have built a new headquarters for their leader. Even more mysterious than the tunnel systems is a place called Ludwigsdorf, today's Ludwigsee, known as Mogawork. To this day, a strange reinforced concrete circle stands here, which is surrounded by numerous myths and overshadows the town of Ludwigsee. The launch site for...
Oh my gosh, they built a gazebo. Aliens. Aliens. It has to be.
For the flying disc. Opinions of experts differ on this structure, and there is fierce debate about its use. The operator of the museum located their claims that it was a state and landing site for the legendary flying disc.
Ooh, that probably gets the tourist coming in, huh?
The mysterious concrete circle is also said to have served as a test facility for the Bell, a device that was powered by anti-gravity.
Die Glock. Yes, the Nazi super weapon. These are all Nazi super weapons, but yeah.
But how much truth is there really behind these statements and allegations? I set off on a journey to Nass Eulenburg to do some research and take a look around. The flying disc is said to have been a saucer-shaped flying and spacecraft that is said to have been developed, invented, and built during the Third Reich. This aircraft is said to have possessed enormous flight capabilities, based on a very advanced and still unknown or secret technology. The flying discs...
And Werner von Braun wasn't able to bring it to light. Yes.
...are also associated with new types of submarines, the unidentified submarine objects, UOs. After 1945, sightings of saucer-shaped...
It's all UAPs now.
...flying objects increased in the USA and Europe. There are many reports from soldiers, police officers, and civilians, and, according to eyewitnesses, much is said to be kept under wraps by the secret services. Only recently, such objects appeared and made life difficult for the military. The infrared devices of NATO...
Apparently this is the Nazi super weapon. Who knew? This is the flying UFO built by the Third Reich. Of course it is.
Aircraft filmed these objects in the sky.
That's not literally another jet. That's a UFO. This thing's been thoroughly covered on this channel too. Actually, I had Paul Kamish come on and look at these because he's used to looking at this kind of flare imagery.
Task force set up for this incident is
supposed to flat earther, yeah.
Find an explanation for these phenomena. However, this was unsuccessful, and to this day there is no clear explanation for the published footage, which was reported worldwide in the media and politicians.
That's not exactly true. There was no explanation because they could not say definitively it was this aircraft, it was that aircraft, it was, it was, they couldn't say, oh, this was, flight 892 or this was a seagull of the species of blah blah blah. It's they just couldn't be for sure. Otters, oh my goodness, y'all get me talking about otters. Keep your dog on a leash. I'm just saying, if you want to keep having a dog.
Also held press conferences about the phenomena. Other countries are taking such incidents in the sky increasingly seriously and are setting up scientific expert commissions to investigate such sightings. The Federal Republic of Germany has had no interest in researching such phenomena. Until now, the University of Würzburg wants to investigate the strange objects in the sky and turn this research into recognized science. It has declared unidentified flying objects to be a priority in the field of aerospace. The University of Würzburg has developed intelligent sensors to search the sky for strange activities. These are also recorded, and in around 97% of cases there is a logical explanation. Only 3% of the sighted objects cannot
How does that work, Ember? Flatzoid thinks Earth is flat, space is fake, but aliens are real. Maybe aliens are demons. Maybe they're demons.
Explained. The objects are said to achieve high acceleration from a standstill, make abrupt changes in direction, and hover in place without being able to hear any noise. These exact characteristics also appear in many military reports about such phenomena, which are called unidentified area phenomena, or UAPs for short. The German scientists...
But they've updated that term again, because it's not always aerial. Now they're using it to describe submersible objects too, so it's UAP is unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
And engineer Håkan Kajal is head of research at the University of Würzburg. He repeatedly emphasized the importance of research in this direction after the UAPs were confirmed by official bodies of the U.S. Armed Forces, and this topic attracted a great deal of attention in the USA. Professor Håkan Kajal clearly advocates for further research and openly addresses UPS.
I mean, I think we all do at this point want further research into what's going on, what the phenomena is. But a lot of those CIA videos that you keep referencing had things like FFA compliant flashing lights on them or flapping wings, which are still listed as unidentified because they don't know what flight it was, they don't know what species of bird it was. But you know, when we look through what they've presented, there's not a lot there. Not a lot there.
Several pilot friends, former military pilots who now fly passenger aircraft, revealed to me when asked in detail about UAPs that they themselves had made dozens of such observations, both in military and civilian roles. They rarely reported these phenomena and agreed among themselves that it was better to keep quiet about such sightings.
They agreed among themselves that traveling around in the air, not to report objects that could cause collisions that they're encountering while they're traveling. I call bullshit. I don't believe that. I don't believe any pilot would do that. That's basically, if you see something flying, if you see it with your eyes or see it on your radar, and you don't report it, then somebody smashes into it, and jetliner comes down with with 500 people on it or whatever. You're responsible for that. It was your responsibility as someone moving in those spaces, as someone, as a pilot who is also at risk for running into that stuff. You want other people to do it, you have to do it too.
Sightings in order to avoid being labeled as unreliable or rogue and even risk losing their license. I know of one incident where a fighter pilot took pictures of such sightings and forwarded them to his superior. He was then questioned by intelligence agents and ordered not to talk about it, to deny the incident, and to refrain from any future conversations of this nature, as it could have consequences for him and his career. Perhaps more pilots will open up to the public and talk about their sightings, which are not uncommon, now that there is an official department at the University of Würzburg
that is a bird diving. That is a diving bird.
Researches such phenomena. It is very likely that German science in particular should address this topic, since that
is a diving bird.
Third Reich is said to have built such a flying object, which is said to have such flight characteristics. The Reichsflugscheibe is...
And the pilots were excited because their equipment was precise enough to lock in on a diving bird. That's why they got so excited. Not because they didn't know what it was and thought it was a UFO. This is a diving bird. I don't know the species. That's why it's unidentified, right? This is the perfect one. That's exactly what was in my head when we were talking about this.
Said to have reached twice the speed of sound. In less than 3 minutes, the Reichsflugscheibe is said to have reached an altitude of over 12,000 meters after taking off vertically. Eyewitness accounts from 1944 clearly state that they had sighted these flying objects, and
birds. They're called birds. This is a bird.
Reports from London also say similar things. The New York Times also reports.
Ew. Why on earth would you show me that? Why would you put that on my screen? Gross. I'm so confused. At first I thought he was debunking the topics the topics you cover. Well, I mean, this guy that we're watching right now, I think is trying to be impartial. I'm mostly here to crack jokes and be obnoxious. Endoscience. We all want more research on it, but some people will only accept particular types of answers. And if they don't get the answer, it's conspiracy.
Reported on these sightings. The Allies were alarmed by the reports of the new German technology. They feared a new air superiority of the Third Reich, against which they had no means of countering. The flight
and you got to understand that at this time in Germany, they would have been testing V2s. So people would have been seeing V2s flying in the air and have never seen anything like that in their life, right? Because the German forces were experimenting with long-range rockets at that time. So seeing airplanes would have been in the 1930s would have been a spectacle, let alone seeing a rocket.
Attributed to the Reichsflugscheibe are still physically impossible today. Supposedly, or did the Allies capture the technology after the war and research and test it themselves? The fact is that
and it was birds the whole time. It was just birds.
After 1945, the number of UFO sightings in the USA exploded. Numerous German scientists were sent to the USA after the war, where they continued their research. It is therefore conceivable that other
Operation Paperclip. Yeah, well, we brought over a bunch of German scientists and pardoned them after World War II, so that they could work on U.S. programs dealing with rocketry and explosives and weaponry and stuff like that. Werner von Braun was the big one, but yeah, the whole of NASA was built on the foundation of some of these. Well, I shouldn't say built the whole, but definitely large portions of NASA and the space program were built around early Nazi programs in rocketry.
Scientists and technologies were also secretly transferred to the USA. According to secret documents recently published by ZDF, the head of the secret weapons program, SS Obergruppenführer Hans Kammler, was transferred to the USA and interrogated there. Officially, it was said that Kammler took his own life in 1945. Kammler is said to have continued researching the development.
That's what happens when you're a Nazi. Yeah, gross.
Of the so-called wonder weapons for the U.S. government in the USA.
Wunderwaffe.
So was there research in the Third
Wunderwaffe
Reich into revolutionary new engines that were supposed to give aircraft unprecedented flight characteristics? There was a lot of research and development in this area. For example, the rocket...
Bye! I lost one of my bracelets.
Engine, or the world's first jet engine, which was used in the M62. The Hortenho 229 only flew for decades, which was ahead of its time. This aircraft was almost invisible to enemy radar and was there.
Sort of looks like a stealth bomber in a way. It's a black triangle.
Therefore, the first aircraft in the world to have excellent camouflage properties. The Hortenho 229 bears a surprising resemblance to the most modern U.S. aircraft to date, such as the B-2 tanker bomber. Back to the latest sightings by the U.S. Armed Forces, which cannot be explained. The sighted flying objects and their photographs by the
Which cannot be explained. That's a fucking bird, dude. It's a bird.
U.S. pilots show very special flight characteristics. The UAPs could not only fly particularly fast, they could also...
And you're cutting this deceptively because what they're doing here is they're replaying like part of it to make it seem like it's just flying along. It hits the water.
Also dive into the water. The Third Reich is said to have managed to combine the properties of the flying disc with a submarine. These objects could not only fly quickly, they could also maintain their flight characteristics underwater. The similarities between these developments from the Third Reich and the UAPS footage recently released by the
I like the
between these developments
that the subtitles called it Yuppies recordings.
from the Third Reich and the UAPS footage recently released by the USNVI are frightening. There is no real evidence for the existence of these aircraft and watercraft. Or is it still being kept secret to this day? Is the Federal Republic of Germany not interested in investigating these sightings? Since it already knows that this technology exists and that it even originates from Germany, eyewitnesses are therefore declared
You think that they would be capitalizing on it if it exists. And Die Glock is different from the flying disc, by the way. The bell is different from the disc.
crazy. Is this technology still being tested, and is it now about to be ready for series production? These questions leave a lot of room for speculation. Are the latest sightings perhaps of a northern nature, and did they originate here in Ludwigsdorf, present-day Poland? Jim Dobre
UFOs are Polish. Confirmed.
and welcome to another episode of Clapspartan TV. Today we are at the place where the flying disc supposedly landed and or the bell.
Wait a second. Are you doing your intro now at 8 minutes and 26 seconds?
Yes, which was supposed to
He answered yes. It's like, yes. Yes, I am.
be propelled by anti-gravity. We are going to take a look at what really was here back then. It is a tourist magnet, which is why it is being exploited. A flying disc landed here. I asked around again and talked to my locals here a bit. To this day, we still don't know exactly what happened.
What's going on with the sky back there?
All this technology, everything that's here, V1 cars and all that stuff to make it a bit spectacular for the tourists, so that they get to see something here, because in the end, all you have is this ring of reinforced concrete, which is also often called the Stonehenge of Poland or referred to as such.
Yes, because Stonehenge famously made in modern times from concrete. It's so bizarre that this gazebo thing is getting so much attention. It looks like it probably was designed to have maybe a domed roof or a coned roof over top of it.
Which is of course also complete nonsense. That's not true. That's just pure fiction. But let's take a look around here and see what might have actually happened here back then, because we also have underground structures here, and I think that's the key to the mystery. Because based on these...
I can't tell if that's lightning or if there's some kind of resolve trying to happen.
Structures, you can somehow see what was really produced here back then, what was done here.
Looks like a concrete gazebo.
We're now going in here, where the bell or the flying disc was supposed to land.
Why does it say the Rice flight disc?
What's all that about? So, let's just say, I think it's a mystery that's just fiction. So, it probably never happened. A fire pit was built in the middle here. Of course, that wasn't there back then either. And now we're standing in the circle, so to speak.
And you're going to teleport through time. Is it funny to hear me say gazebo? It's probably my my upper Midwest accent. Gazebo is one of those funny words for us that people, when we talk, that they think sounds silly.
During the war, this site was home to a munitions factory belonging to the Dynamit Nobel Company. There was also a hard coal mine here, the Wenzelahaus Group. Hard coal had been mined here since 1771. In 1941, The perpetually insolvent mine was handed over to the Wehrmacht. There is no reliable information about the further use of the mine until 1945. All claims are purely speculative. The reinforced concrete circle, also known as the flytrap, got its name from the Soviets, as they found the abandoned site and the concrete skeleton covered with a network.
Well, what's this over here now? Looks like it might be the same kind of structure, just not in a circle.
Of steel slats. There are various theories as to what this structure could be. One possible theory is that it was the foundation for a cooling tower. Since there was a power plant here, that sounds plausible at first.
Or some kind of infrastructure like a entertainment hall where they were going to put live music on. But because of the expenses of the war, they abandoned it in mid-construction. And now it's like, ooh, what was this supposed to be? Well, this was something that was funded. I don't know for sure, but that's it's a lot more plausible than being the launch site for man-made UFOs. Is that it was like a place that they were building as part of a park or part of a venue of some type, where they were going to have crowds of people, and they might need some place in the shade to participate in whatever festivities are going on. Just food for thought.
Other theories say that research into revolutionary anti-gravity was carried out here, given the fact that around 60 scientists, including mathematicians, physicists, biologists, technicians, and the like, worked here, and it should be noted that
I like how you can kind of tell that the same at least in these abandoned structures over here, that the same kind of technology was used to create those buildings. So it's not like it's like, oh, they're making something weird. It's like this is something they were already making in the form of a normal buildings. And now they're making a big circle. When not to be weird. I mean, it could be a cooling tower. I'm not saying that's wrong. That it could have been a foundation for a cooling tower that was incomplete. I don't know.
Only ammunition was officially manufactured here. This could have been possible from a purely theoretical perspective, especially considering the fact that, similar to Project Rees, no documents exist about the purpose and meaning of this work, or that they have been kept secret to this day. Supposedly, the magnetic energy within this circle is increased by a factor of around 20. Other theories do not want to be clearly established and confirmed.
I don't know how much I believe that about the magnetic stuff. I'd have to see some actual readings and stuff, and actually witness some experimentation being done.
But they refute the first two theories. Since all the information is purely speculative, I take a closer look around this place to be able to form my own opinion. Of course, everything here is beautifully designed for the tourists.
Is that like an Outlander reference, Ember? I'm not sure.
It must be spectacular. None of this is original.
So someone built Nazi bunkers post World War II in Germany or near this site. That's kind of okay then. Or did they bring these signs from someplace that already existed and just include this as like a sort of an outdoor museum like the area? Because I saw a lot of military vehicles too. So like a museum type setting. This door's open. I wonder if that's actually the bunker's been turned into a little museum.
Yes, it's all replicas. The main thing is that it's spectacular. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like the goal here is to put a lot of Third Reich memorabilia on display. And if there's any place that has the rights to do that, it's Germany. But it's not like they're doing it as like proud members of the party or anything. They're like, yeah, these are the things that the evil Reich that took over our country did. Kind of like what we will do with things like Alligator or Auschwitz and stuff like that. You'll be able to go see it, but future generations won't use it and they'll be disgusted by it, like they are with the real Auschwitz.
On the reinforced
that hammered single note.
concrete frame, the flycatcher, we find no fastening or anything similar with which an apparatus powered by anti-gravity.
There's rebar running through it. This wouldn't be part of any kind of technology. This would just be a foundational framework.
Could have been attached. Even on the ground, which was supposedly made of a tiled tub, nothing can be seen or guessed at. The possible theory of a cooling tower and its concrete foundations on the ground, which were supposed to serve as pipes to collect condensed and rainwater, is not found here.
I don't think that's an accurate, I mean, it could be, but I don't, like, looking at it, my speculation would be just some kind of sheltered facility for people to gather. You forget how festive the Germans are while you're making this video, because you're like, oh, Nazis, they had to be evil and nefarious. But there were still, like, regular German people who's like, yeah, but can we have a park? And they tried to build a park with the sudden surplus of funds that the government had. But, you know, there's people doing that now. Like, we want to protect our national parks here in the U.S., but whatever money goes towards that right now, would that be considered Fourth Reich funded, since we're under the Fourth Reich right now?
Closer look at this area does not reveal its purpose. Let's take a look at the coal mine and the existing theories.
Did Rammstein play there?
In 1931, a serious mining accident occurred here, which led to the bankruptcy of the already barely profitable mine. However, the government aid promised by the National Socialists failed.
Look at that word. That's quite the word. Teilschuldeverschreibung.
To materialize. At the beginning of the war, the mine was nationalized and reconstruction work followed. The nature of the area itself makes it ideal for monitoring this complex. There were 3 rings of fences here and the area was heavily guarded by the military. The buildings were well marked and there are many bunkers in the woods that were used to store ammunition. A well-developed network of paths is also very notable.
I mean, again, this is like things that you can find in any country that are left over from wartime, bunkers where they stored ammunition and partially constructed abandoned structures.
And testifies to the
There's all over the U.S. too.
Facility's certain priority. Chemical warfare agents are said to have been manufactured and stored here. Although Hitler had expressly forbidden the use of such weapons, since he himself had been wounded by such weapons as a soldier in World War I, the Third Reich developed newer and more efficient weapons, but never used them. According to the book The Truth About Wonder Weapons, many electrical engineers are said to have worked in the former mine. The white coats worn as work clothes were striking.
White coats.
It is also said that the mine was supposed to resemble an underground city and that the deepest level was said to be over 600 meters. In addition, the staff working there are said to have had to take tablets several times a day. The number of people employed there...
What kind of tablets, I wonder? Were they iPads?
...ranges from 40 to 70,000. But there are no truly verifiable figures. It is not possible to inspect the mine today. As a result of the pumps being switched off, the entire tunnels are said to have been flooded with water and all entrances sealed. Possible explanations could lie in Russia.
I've heard that about other places too, that they filled it with water and sealed it off, about these macabre locations, right? And these where secret science experiments took place. They flooded them, and yeah, but you'd still be... If they flooded them, we still have the technology to unflood them. And well, there's still going to be stuff that we can pick up on how things were done by looking through there. So don't be silly. Don't be silly.
Russian hands. However, this is vehemently denied by the Russian government. According to statements by Professor Moldava, a prisoner of the Grossrosen camp, he was in direct contact with Hans Kammeler, SS Open Gruppenführer and head of secret weapons development. Allegedly,
yeah, it comes to Wunderwaffe, Kammeler's the guy in charge of it all.
There was a center for air weapons research in the Owl Mountains. If these statements are to be believed, it would be entirely possible, since various underground structures have not been found to this day. According to Albert Speer, a large part of the Third Reich's concrete production was supposedly used there, and the Werwolfen organization has been proven to have been particularly active there since the war. Does the secret
werewolves who had werewolves on their bingo card. Too bad, because I already did werewolves on the poll earlier, so you should already check that one.
Of the wonder weapons lie beneath our feet. Has no one explored the mine to this day? Did the Soviets, who also declared the entire area a military-heavy district after the end of the war, not conduct any investigations there either? Or did the SS cleverly dig and then flood the most important levels of the mine? These questions are still supposedly unanswered to this day. It is no secret that the Third Reich relocated its armaments production underground, as Allied bombing raids caused devastating damage to the industry. Until 1944, the Reich Ministry under Albert Speer was in charge of the embankment storage facility. From 1944 onwards, SS Obergruppenführer Hans Kammeler took over all responsibilities and, in addition to the secret weapons program, also managed the underground armaments facility. Alleged.
It's not surprising that they have underground facilities, that the Third Reich was developing secret underground facilities under which they could function if the results of the war continued to go against them, which is what was happening at this time. So yeah, I mean, and this with like any good conspiracy though, you mix reality with folklore, with speculation, with science fiction.
The most important and technologically advanced weapons for the Luftwaffe were researched and tested here in the Owl Mountains. Professor Moldava allegedly discovered after the war through an engineer that the mine was connected to the Rees complex. This has not been confirmed to this day. Experts merely suspect a connection. To this day, nothing of the sort has been found. According to Professor...
I mean, you talk about the Owl Mountains, I just checked that. It looks like they're actually in Germany. They're in Poland. Let's pull them up. Let's look at these. Look at this mountain range. So, how far are we from the German border, though? Pretty far. Well, depends on how far these Owl Mountains run, but it's this area right here. I'm going to flag it. Save it as a favorite. Let's see if we can get down in there. Visit the Owl Mountains. Ooh. Foggy. I like this. That's a quintessential German. Look at that. Oh. I say Germany and this is Poland, but... It has that Eastern European freaking vibe. Look at that. Beautiful. Let's try another spot. What if we do this one? Ooh. Yeah, this reminds me of the Ozarks, kind of. Where else? What else you got for me, Owl Mountains? Ooh, I'm way up high. You can see everything from here. Cool stuff. Yeah.
Moldava. The Third Reich tested a secret weapon for the Luftwaffe here. This theory is supported by the United States.
Welcome to the membership team. You can make Bigfoot footprints across your screen. You can do a Mothman. Let's see, we got all of these available for any of you nerds who want to do emojis.
States of America. Their soldiers made a shocking observation, and this phenomenon even made it into the New York Herald Tribune. A British newspaper also wrote about the completion of a new type of weapon by the Germans. We will deal with this topic in another documentary. So far, all we know is that there is a very large mine under this area, which is flooded. We continue to look around. We are now in a bunker-like building. This was built specifically for tourist purposes, as our guide quietly revealed to us. All the doors and signs were also decorated with eagles to make National Socialism seem omnipresent here. To make this door appear even more mysterious, a hand wheel was simply added. The tourist is
this replicas or are these actual leftovers from... I mean, I know they weren't originally in this place, but were they moved here from someplace else?
for a few sensations here. Further down in the bunker-like building is the original supply tunnel. This was simply connected to the new bunker-like building. Here we have another door with the eagle, which was added later, so it is not real.
Okay.
It is a heavy gas
Not real.
protection door, i.e. an air raid shelter, and this is where you go into the underground area.
Let's go. We got ready to dive underground, find out, steal some of this super tech down here.
Let's go into this passage now and see where this leads.
Do it.
Everything is
Yay.
wet and damp here, and it's not high.
I
Now we're in
am.
the
I'm high, but I'm not damp. I can be both at the same time, trust me.
old supply tunnel. This leads down into the depths towards the concrete circle and comes from above towards what is now the forest and the former industry.
You can't escape the forest.
It goes really deep down under this structure.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's like the catacombs.
Water flows along the edge.
Mm-hmm.
There's fog in here, right? Real fog.
Ooh.
There were cables running everywhere, right? These are cable routes. So here on the left side, these are all cable routes.
For
There's
the
a
lights.
pipe running through here that's well
For these lights. That's the electrical circuit for these lights. And then there's a modern electrical circuit. Well, semi-modern. Looks like it might have been installed in the 80s.
centered.
I went to electrician school at one point in my life.
It's bricked up down there.
Yeah, well, it's more like if you want to see me go deep, I'm different than Brentley that way. And you can subscribe to Spider Gwen.
They bricked it up. Ellipsis dot.
I think a good sledgehammer will take care of that pretty quickly, and we can continue going. We'll wait right here. You go ahead and start hammering away.
Yeah, look, it continues there. It's buried. There's
A burial there. Yeah, but not really.
Hammer,
Right? It goes further
hammer.
there. It's a bit buried. Yeah. You could get through there. Yeah, yeah. But the wall at the back right is off. Yeah, it goes under the thing. Okay, and that's where we got. Now let's go up here.
Yeah, there was two paths.
It's all
What's-
cable routes. Really thick cables were actually laid here.
Yeah, I lay thick cable myself, so.
But we don't know what they were for.
Jump across. Woo!
Everything is wet down here.
Do it, do it. Are these things covered in plastic, I hope? There's some different Wunderwaffe on the wall.
Yes, and this is the end. It goes up here. Oh, there's this bunker inside. They just put it on top.
A bunker.
It's interesting to see that thick cables, power lines, actually went towards this reinforced concrete circle. It actually went all the way down here and it goes really deep down.
Well, let's go really... That's where I
You
want
just
to
saw
go.
it, but you can't get under it, right?
Hmm.
Let's go up here.
Yeah, you can. You just don't have the ingenuity to do it. You have to really want it.
You can see cables running through here too. That's why it was built like this. You can also see that in the steel industry, everywhere where thick power lines ran and supply lines were built like this. It's a typical brick building style and water runs into the hut everywhere.
So, I mean, brick's eventually gonna erode. It's only a matter of time before that wall comes down and we're able to see the secrets inside. Got a press bag. Take me into the depths of the
turn it on here. Come closer, because there's water here. Ellipsis dot.
It gets deeper too. It's
Bricked up at the back. The back is bricked up again, my friends.
Go down. I want to see. Get closer. I want to look at this.
There's still some way to go. So this thing really has some function. There's something here to do with energy. A lot of energy was needed to do anything here.
Electricity, you mean?
Whether it's related to nuclear research or other research stuff, we don't know. Is this all metal? No, it looks like clay, ceramics or something like that. So, a lot of energy was needed here, but as I said, to this day we don't really know what happened here back then. When you look at it from that perspective, this
Well,
building
there's signs that seem to indicate stuff that was happening. Why don't you read them? Oh, Ember points that out too.
small and its purpose is rather insignificant. We find a normal supply tunnel for power cables here, which was supplemented by a later construction. To make these empty corridors more interesting, display boards about German weapons technologies and their descriptions were put on display. A small room with German soldiers and workers was also built. A model of a flying disc was also on display there.
There, right there,
to
yeah.
lend the whole thing a creepy atmosphere, various fake
But this is all bullshit, though.
eagles and signs have been hung up. A local resident told me that he had reached the cable tunnel directly below the concrete circle and had seen thick, circular copper pipes there. I cannot verify whether this statement is true, as a wall blocks my way. The supply tunnel runs from the power station, which is located on the sloping terrain, towards the forest, where there were also industrial and storage bunkers. This is why the supply tunnel is also a steel slope towards the power station. The fact that the power cable was laid through the supply tunnel to the higher lying
It kind of looks like it was an aqueduct, too. I mean, I'm not saying that's its main purpose, but they definitely built an aqueduct alongside of the walkway. I mean, that's what that is.
area is also conclusive. There are no documents to prove this. Original photographs are also very rare and do not prove this use. All knowledge about this complex is speculative, which is what we can say with certainty. Electricity was generated here and then distributed to the surrounding industries. Whether a copper-colored flying device with a diameter of about 3 meters, the core of which was a revolutionary engine that generated an electrically charged vortex, was actually researched or even tested on the Bell remains unclear. Whether this mysterious reinforced concrete circle is really connected to this device also remains unclear. How far the Third Reich really got with these flying devices and their development, we will probably never know. The fact is that the Third Reich and its enormous efforts to create new weapons
seems very speculative, almost like fabricated whole cloth to assume that this had anything to do with that stuff.
Technologies. With a large number of excellent scientists, it managed to develop weapons that were decades ahead of their time. And to this day, the most advanced weapons in the world are based on this technology. If the Third Reich was in possession of the knowledge about these flying objects, then the victors certainly captured it after the war and secretly researched and further developed it. It remains strange that the sightings of these flying objects increased exorbitantly after the war. From this it is quite possible that the phenomena observed are of a terrestrial nature and that they originated in Germany.
Well, they were cited during the war too. The Foo Fighters is actually, that's where that term comes from. Foo Fighters is from, I think it dates back to the 20s actually, but they were seeing UFOs way before World War II and well after World War II as well.
At least that the foundation for this groundbreaking technology was laid in Germany. If the Third Reich really had this technology at its disposal, it is also conceivable that valuable goods were transported to a secret location using it. Is that why the gold train was not found? Was the gold transferred to these aircraft and transported away? Ludwigsdorf had a railway connection.
Obviously, it was taken to Antarctica, to the secret Nazi base in Antarctica.
To the Waldenburg-Glatz railway line since 1880. It would be conceivable that the train was diverted to Ludwigsdorf and therefore disappeared on its planned route, since the knowledge,
Is it conceivable, though? Is that conceivable?
Construction plans, the scientists and the existing aircraft had already been brought to safety before the end of the war. What is the story behind the alleged statements by Admiral Karl Donitz from 1943? The German submarine fleet is proud to have built an earthly paradise, an impregnable fortress for the Führer at the bottom of the world.
Oh, he actually did go there. He went to Antarctica.
Admiral Karl Donitz in 1943. What did this statement mean by Operation High Jump in 1946 and 1947? And what was the statement by Admiral Richard E. Bright meant? I don't want to scare anyone,
Was that supposed to be Richard E. Byrd?
but the bitter reality is that in the event of another war, the United States will be attacked by flying objects that can fly from pole to pole at incredible speed. The fantastic speed with which the world is shrinking, the
Fly from pole to pole faster than the stripper coked up.
Admiral explains, is one of
Bird.
the objective lessons we learned on the Antarctic exploration that we are just finishing. I can only warn my compatriots that the time is over when we could retreat into complete isolation and relax in confidence. The distances, the oceans, and the poles offered us a guarantee of security. Is there a connection? But why, then, did so many high-ranking secret keepers of the Third Reich end up in Allied captivity? Why did none of them talk about it during interrogation?
Because that's what happens after you do a genocide. The people making the technology to do the genocide and to fight to protect the genocide are held accountable by the people who came to stop the genocide. Hope that helps.
Or did you report it? And based on these findings, the high jump expedition was launched. Why exactly were these important men of the Third Reich left behind? Or was only an even more elite circle initiated and evacuated? The fact is that after Ernst Schaefer's expedition to Tibet, the Third Reich had a great interest in exploring Antarctica. According to confiscated names and documents that have since been released by the Russians, the Third Reich already had precise knowledge of what was beneath the ice in 1941. Another fact.
I mean, everybody at this time was fighting to expand their. I mean, World War II. I don't want to say, World War II definitely was not the end of colonization, but it was certainly after World War II. It slowed down. A lot of places got their freedom from the imperialism. But, during World War II, imperialism was at its, I would almost say its peak. Before World War II, it was almost at its peak. And Antarctica was pretty much all that was left that wasn't claimed by somebody.
Men and women from the Wehrmacht,
Got
Luftwaffe,
another super chat. Thank you, Jester. $5. Thank you so much. Earlier, he mentioned them shutting off the pumps. So they didn't flood the tunnels. They stopped wasting money to keep them unflooded. That makes sense to me.
Kriegsmarine and SS who had no family were sought out. Before the task personally assigned by the Führer Adolf Hitler was revealed, they were told that they would be embarking on a mission with no return. After being dialed in and put into action, documents about this major task were confiscated by the Soviet Abwehrdienstmarsch and taken to the Soviet Union. When they were released, the authenticity of the documents was proven beyond doubt. However, it is not certain whether this was merely a smear campaign on the part of the Third Reich. I will report on this in another documentary. Whether important figures of the Third Reich really did set off for this secret base has not been clearly clarified to this day, at least for the public. The secret services will certainly...
I'm not opposed to the idea that the Nazis at least had some presence in Antarctica at some point in time. But did they have a secret base with flying saucers?
have the answers to these questions. Whether these connections are pure fiction or not cannot be definitively denied.
New Schwabenland.
The statements of highly reputable military officers, reports, and published secret documents, on the other hand,
We
increasingly
might have to explore New Schwabenland further.
contradict official explanations of events. Official documents that were kept secret long after the war and are now being published are exposing them as lies. The most disturbing event was the deportation of SS Obergruppenführer Hans Kammler, head of the Third Reich's secret weapons program. The USA announced his death in order to take him to the United States without being disturbed. There he was interrogated. What secrets did he really
The U.S. faked this guy's death and kidnapped him. Gotcha.
reveal? Did he
I mean, he was a Nazi, but, you know, the disclosure is important.
continue to feel bound to his oath even after the fall of the Third Reich and retain his knowledge of this revolutionary technology? Recent events and existing statements by high-ranking military officers have made the line between fiction and reality blurred. Previously considered fiction.
What better place to keep your secret flying saucer base than Antarctica? Think with your head, Bree. I know, I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I get caught up on Easter Island because it's warmer. Seems like a better location because I like a little bit of a tropical climate.
Fiction. Many theories have now been confirmed. The whereabouts of dozens of German submarines also pose new mysteries. Were they destroyed by enemy sand, and are they lying at the bottom of the oceans with their crews? Or did they set off for the secret base mentioned by Karl Donitz? There are more unanswered questions about the Third Reich than answered ones, and as such this topic will continue to fuel people's imaginations and provide room for further speculation. Will we ever learn the whole truth about the progress of the Third Reich?
I doubt it. Some things they're gone forever. But I'm not gonna watch your musical montage. What I'm gonna do is I got another video. It's got like sort of a short list
Any list
of different Wunderwaffen, and we're gonna look at a few of them. Some are like sci-fi, and some are reasonable.
of things invented or discovered by Germans is long and impressive. X-rays, the car, television, the theory of relativity, the birth control pill. The list goes on and on. Unfortunately, one period of German history saw the nation's talents devoted to building weapons. Here is our list of secret Nazi weapons. Number 1, the America bomber. Hitler had one goal that he wanted to accomplish.
See, this is like something within reason.
To see the United States go up in flames. Therefore, Project America Bomber was initiated. It was German Air Force Chief Hermann Goering who sketched out the requirement for the America Bomber in
Pretty straightforward, but they do have bombers that can do this kind of stuff now, easy. But, you know, that they were even thinking about having a bomber that can fly all the way across the Atlantic.
1942. A strategic bomber capable of making the 7,200-mile round trip across the Atlantic with nuclear weapons on board to attack the United States. But it never came this far. The first prototype was the Messerschmitt Me-264, and it was a good, solid choice. But eventually it was abandoned to allow Messerschmitt to concentrate on their fighter production during World War II. Although there were also plans for the Focke-Wulf TA-400 and Heinkel HE-277, eventually the Junkers Ju-390 was selected instead of the Messerschmitt Me-264. There were 2 prototypes built, one of which never flew. The other showed initially a lot of promise, so the Germans gave the order to build a number of aircraft.
How far did it go? You said promise. I just want kind of interested in if there's actually statistics on that.
What precisely occurred after this event is still not certain. It was reported to be seen in Prague, carrying out test flights, and there were also rumors that the aircraft indeed undertook a flight to within 12 miles of the American coast, just north of New York City. But there is no evidence of this flight, and how the Ju-390s were really used has never been found out. Both aircraft, though, were long gone by the end of the war. Number 2, Der Vampir.
Der Vampir. Der Vampir. Should I put on my vampire sunglasses again for those?
Vampire. Unlike the America bomber that never saw the light of day, the ZG-1229, also known as codename Vampir, actually saw service during World War II. Der Vampir was the first night vision device designed for personal weapons, which was developed in 1944 but was not deployed until 1945. It was designed to be mounted on the world's first assault rifle, the STG-44, and saw action on the Eastern Front. The scope looked like a badly made flashlight on a rifle. The scope was heavy, 5 pounds, and the batteries carried in a backpack weighed 30 pounds. The Vampire saw
battery weighing 30 pounds to power your night vision. Isn't that wild?
into the infrared spectrum, not ultraviolet like most night scopes issued to the military today. The device was designed so you could aim the main gun using the infrared sight by a complicated system of range estimating bars that went up and down with the gun and searchlight, so the commander could see the range by aiming the searchlight. 300 were put into the field. However, considering its weight, short battery life, and relatively limited range, it did not impact the battlefield very much. Number 3.
Maybe they should have had the battlefield set up with stations that you could plug into with battery powers for those instead. Or rolling tanks with armored batteries with tank treads on them that could follow the unit. Just thinking out loud. I should not be trying to think of ways to help the Third Reich, but just thinking of ways that technology could have been utilized further.
Krumlauf. Imagine creating a kill shot to your enemy from behind a corner without showing yourself. How much of an advantage would it give you during the war? That was the idea.
Some of these things were amazing that led to NASA and space exploration, and some of these were designed by Bugs Bunny bending Elmer Fudd's gun around to point back at him when he poked it in his rabbit hole.
For the Krumlauf barrel. It was fitted to the Sturmgewehr so that German soldiers could fire their weapon around corners without exposing themselves to enemy fire. It was a great idea. It was evident by the end of the war that most of the fighting to come would take place in an urban environment. Rather than exposing oneself to get a well-aimed shot or blindly firing around a corner hoping that you hit something, what if you could fire around them without showing yourself? However, even the Krumlauf, or crooked gun, with the slightest curve, caused bullets to hammer the inside. This meant the barrel would soon give out and that frequently, even with a new barrel, the bullet itself would break apart, firing more of a shotgun shell spray of fragments than an accurate bullet. Only a few hundred of the barrels were produced. A Krumlauf with a 90-degree bend was being worked on.
Bugs Bunny tech! Woo!
As a standoff weapon for tank crews, but it never made it off the drawing board. Number 4. The Goliath. A war without a drone or another small device is something that is unthinkable in this time.
Isn't it crazy to think that they had remote drones in World War II? They just weren't very good.
But did you know that it was pioneered by the Germans during the Second World War? The Germans deployed several remote-control vehicles during the war, the most famous of which was the Goliath. The Goliath was a World War I tank filled with explosives that was sent towards enemy emplacements or under armored vehicles. Many Goliaths were used against American troops at Anzio beachhead in Italy in spring 1944, and against Polish partisans in Warsaw later that summer.
That's crazy! They had drones in World War II. You don't think about, I don't know. Maybe you guys do. Maybe I'm just behind, but I don't think about drones in World War II.
They carried a single 13-pound charge. Nearly 8,000 Goliaths
they're sapper drones, but they're drones nonetheless.
Were made, and they could and did severe damage when they reached their targets. However, most did not. They had terrible ground clearance, were a slow-moving target, had thin armor, and were expensive to make. However, these weapons, and our next one, were ahead of their time as the modern battlefield is increasingly filled with unmanned remote-control vehicles.
It's wild.
Number 5. The ball tank. Maybe the most strange and weirdest vehicle.
The ball tank, you guys. I present to you the tank that's just a wheel.
Being built was the Kugelpanzer, the ball tank. Even today, nobody really knows exactly what it was intended to do.
The Kugelpanzer sounds like a German stripper.
The Kugelpanzer was 5 feet tall and about 2.5 feet wide. With thin armor, the vehicle could be manned by a single crewman on the inside sitting on a motorcycle-style saddle. This driver could see the battlefield through a very narrow slit, and if necessary, fire a single machine gun through a slot underneath the viewport. Only one of these Kugelpanzers was ever found. It was found by the Soviets in, of all places, Manchuria.
Do you want a Kugelpanzer? Technically, the V1s were drones. Yeah, because they're unmanned and had a programmed flight path. Yeah, you're right. I guess when I say I don't think about World War II having drones, I specifically meant drone ground assault vehicles. to be clear. Yeah, but yeah, rockets in general are drone technology.
Been sent to the Japanese, but nobody knows why. The best guess as to its purpose is that it was a primitive remote-controlled reconnaissance vehicle, but there are also rumors that it was a suicide vehicle for ramming into enemy troops and tanks, or a vehicle used as an infantry support weapon, which was able to travel to places.
I could see practical uses for it. I just don't know if it actually is practical. How well it would stand up to fire, how well it would stand up to enemy combatants, right? Or you're gonna end up just being trapped inside a shell surrounded by enemies with no ammo left.
Places where no man has ever been. What the nature of this vehicle was, we will never know, because the documents are locked away somewhere in Moscow's military archives. The only Kugelpanzer in existence is in a Russian museum, and no one is sure if it's genuine or not. Number 6, the Sun Gun.
The Sun Gun might be my favorite Wunderwaffe because it was originally thought of as invented, conceptualized, or it never came to fruition, as a way to bring sunlight to places that can't grow crops. Like, it had a humanitarian origins, but the Third Reich was like, nah, we're going to weaponize this.
Yes, you heard that correctly. The Nazis planned to turn the sun into a focused weapon. It wasn't a very realistic plan, but it was a plan nonetheless and took up time and manpower, at least at the drawing board level. However, being Nazis, German scientists came up with the idea that if they could build a big enough mirror and deploy it in space, they could focus the sun's heat on a target, say New York, and kill everyone in it. However, since the Nazis' most famous superweapon, the V2 ballistic missile, could not break through the atmosphere, could not be counted on to hit its target, and carried nothing but a warhead, we'd say the sun gun was more of a twisted pipe dream than anything else. Still, the Nazis devoted time to it when they could have had scientists working on practical weapons, so we should be thankful. Number 7, the Ratter.
I think the idea of the sun gun is benevolent. I like it. Let's make that happen, because yeah, you could bring with the way climate change is going and stuff, we could bring a little bit of balance. But let's look at this giant tank.
Or Landkreuzer P1000. Meet the world's largest rat, the Landkreuzer P1000. You may have heard of the rat's smaller cousin, the Mouse, which was a monster of a tank that dwarfed even the massive Tiger tanks. The Tiger I weighed between 54 and 57 tons. The Mouse weighed 207 tons, but never made it to the battlefield. However, should you ever be near the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia, you can see a Mouse. The Soviets captured it after the war. The Ratter, of which only drawing and scale models were made, would have come in at 1,100.
I wonder how effective the Ratter would have been. Because I know vehicles that they use for like quarry work and mining vehicles and stuff that are absolutely huge. You know, they have wheels that are 20 yards across. Not literally, but you know what I mean. They have huge wheels, but they can't drive on like normal places. The the area has to be like properly prepared for them to travel on. So would somebody be like going ahead and laying down reinforced 1,100 ton resistant roads for this thing to grind along on?
Tons, carrying between 20 to 40 men, with two 14-inch guns. These were found on battleships, not tanks, 4 6-inch guns, a field howitzer, and over 60 AA guns and machine guns. Number 8, Die Feuerlilie.
Yeah, we should do Archimedes' sun weapon too, like ancient weapons. That would be cool. Ancient technologies. Yeah, Archimedes' big mirror that he had on his tower, they could use as a laser.
The Fire Lily. One of the most famous German secret weapons was the V2 Buzz Bomb, the winged ballistic missile the Nazis began to launch at Britain, Holland, and Belgium starting in the last half of 1944. The next of our German secret weapons looked very similar to the V2, but was designed to bring down enemy planes, namely bombers. The F-55 was designed to fly at supersonic speeds and was launched from a long ramp or modified 88mm gun platform. The first one was finished in 1942, far before the V1 or V2s. There were problems in development and supply.
So it's like an anti-aircraft weapon.
F-55 had more successful tests than its younger brother, but it was still far from being deployed when the war ended. Number 9, the Horton HO-229.
Horton Ho. The Horton Ho, y'all.
Germans may have wasted time working on the Rat and the Sun gun, but they deployed their first operational jet aircraft.
I like his smile. He's so happy to be deployed. Look how happy he is. Him's not a bad guy. He was just used for bad purposes. He's a happy guy.
Along with the famous Me-262 fighter, the Luftwaffe put the Horton Company's HO-229 Gotha fighter bomber into action. The world's
Gotha? I like that name.
combat-ready flying wing. Unlike many German secret weapons, the Gotha fulfilled its production requirements. It had a ceiling of 49,000 feet, carried 2,200 pounds of bombs, had a range of over 600 miles, and a top speed of over 600 miles per hour. The Horton was not stealth as we know it today, but it did have a smaller radar signature than the most numerous German fighter, the Bf-109. Luckily, only 3 were produced before the end of the war.
Did they do any bombing runs?
10. The German kamikaze. Towards the end of the war, Sonderkommando Elbe was formed. This was a group of about 2,000 planes of all kinds, but only about 300 volunteers. There was a reason for that. They were supposed to ram Allied bombers. Though they were supposed to bail out of their machines before impact, most knew it was a suicide mission. Amazingly, several men survived and are estimated to have brought down or seriously damaged about 24 Allied planes. At the war's end, the Germans made a jet called the Ramjäger, or Ram Hunter, with
Ram Jaeger.
a fortified nose and reinforced wings to cut through a bomber's fuselage, but none of them were deployed before Germany surrendered. And here you have our list of secret Nazi weapons. We hope you enjoyed our video. Please leave a comment below about your thoughts and don't forget to like
Crazy.
it. Subscribe to the channel as an offering to the gods of the algorithm, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Gotha was the name of a research airbase. Thank you. Hello, Jefferson Spatchcock. Somebody was working through some issues while designing that thing. Yeah. All right, so that was his History Inside that was telling us that. And then before that, we watched, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this person's name. No, I will. You know I will. This is Auftrag Gutste präsentiert von Klappspattern TV. I don't know what it means, though. That looks like he does a lot of urban exploration and stuff, which is cool. I'm gonna subscribe. But yeah, that was the story of the Wunderwaffen. What do you all think? Would any of these inventions turn the tides of the war? And you'll notice that I didn't cover Die Glock here because I'm gonna give Die Glock its own video at some point. So that's why I didn't include that on this list. But you let me know what you think of this different Wunderwaffen. Would they have changed the course of the war? I said vor. Oh my gosh. Now I'm talking like I am German. Not really. Germans don't sound anything like that. I probably get slapped by a German person to say that, for saying that. Anyhow, yeah. Please remember to be kind. Take care. And we'll see you next time.